There's a quote by Friedrich Nietzsche that says, "A true man wants two things: danger and play. And for that reason, he wants woman as the most dangerous of playthings." Now, Nietzsche's view on women is, I guess you could say, controversial to say the least, at least by today's standards. But he also had a lot of respect for the eternal image of the feminine, let's say. And he even opens one of his most famous books, Beyond Good and Evil, with, "Suppose truth is a woman, what then?" And that sentence in of itself is so profound and it's so enlightening that to this day I'm still having different revelations and understandings about what he's actually saying. Because truth, in a way, is kind of like a woman. You don't really know, like it's full of uncertainty, and yet it's as clear as day. Like it's as plain and simple and straightforward as anything, as beauty can be. But beneath the beauty sometimes is a terrible, terrible, terrible occurrence, or a terrible opportunity, or a terrible experience behind beauty. Beauty can be very misleading. It's hard to discern sometimes. And so in this video today, I want to talk about why women will make it easy for you or they will not. And the reason that I'm talking about this is not because I'm a dating coach. I do not consider myself a dating coach. That's not my forte. I do not want to be considered as someone that's a dating coach. I do not want to be considered as someone that is a PUA or a pickup artist or part of the red pill, whatever. I'm speaking about this to help the godly men out there have a deeper understanding of female nature and what exactly is going on in the female mind. Now, it's damn near a crime today to have certain kinds of standards or boundaries with women. And I think a lot of that has to deal with just the overall lacking of a backbone in our society. In a video a while back, I said that we need to grow a backbone and not a wishbone. And I hold true to that. I think we have too much of these wishbones in our male counterparts nowadays. We have too many wishbones and not backbones in our fellow men. And so, in order to understand how to grow a backbone, you must understand what the woman is trying to do and what her strategy is to keep you around, whether it's for attention or whether it's actually for a relationship. And if she's going to try to get you into a relationship, it will eventually become very, very, very easy. And or just for a sexual encounter, which I do not recommend that you just have flings of any kind with women. I do not. That's something that I do not preach here on this channel. I do not advocate for or stand by people that participate in hookups, one-night stands, or even going back to their ex for sex after a couple months or whatever, and they just need some sex or whatever. I think that's some stupid stuff that you're only tightening the soul tie with that person that may have hurt you or you may have hurt them, and you're just making the situation overall worse, and it's going to be harder to repent down the line. And again, when I say repent and when I say sin on this channel, I do not mean strictly the religious terms. I mean psychologically, you are fleeing from that which you know to be wrong for you. That's repentance. Whereas sinning is committing a attack against your personal well-being, whether intentionally or unintentionally, and to the well-being of those around you. So repentance is about coming into consciousness of the thing that is causing you a disruption of well-being. So what exactly is it that women are trying to do? What is their strategy? They're trying to make you have feelings for them without a certain kind of commitment on her end necessarily, or without sexual intimacy. That is the main strategy of the woman. Now, the strategy for the man is to make sure that she understands that she will not make any headway whatsoever with you as a man until she fully submits to your frame and your way of life. And it's not about control. It's about leadership. It's about maintaining a vision, and it's about competence following through in the vision itself. It's about taking on the struggles of daily life and not bitching about it. Like that's really what it comes down to. I'm not saying that you can't be emotional with women. I'm not saying that you can't be like you have to be a solid, heartless, cold rock. That's not what I'm saying at all. Because in a previous video, I mentioned that one of the things that I'm starting to really cement into my life is that if a woman is not an asset to me, then I'm not going to provide any kind of validation, time, resources, etc. And the reason for that is because, well, what's the point of giving these women attention that I'm romantically interested in, let's say? Because professional wise, well, obviously I work with people, and specifically women in this case. I work with women professionally, so like I'm going to have to communicate with them obviously in order to get like the job done, but I'm not pursuing any women romantically in my professional life. And the same goes for consultations. There's been women that have reached out to me that seemed like they wanted a consultation, but then they wanted something else when the consultation happened. If you're a woman watching this, I'm a professional. I'm not about that life. I'm actually trying to help in these consultations. If you do, if you do want to shoot your shot, feel free to message me, but clearly state that this is not for a consultation. Because that is not something that I'm just, like, I'm going into it expecting something else, like something specific, because I'm providing a professional service. I'm providing a guide, a spiritual guide. Like, that is my service. I'm not your husband. I'm not your husband or anything like that. So I'm not your boyfriend in those kinds of professional settings. I am not that at all. And that I just want to make that clear because that's happened several times now. But anyway, so as a man, you must also make sure that she knows that you have options. Now, this is more about mindset than it is actually having options. And I'm not saying that you need to show her that you can just get any girl you want, because that's, I mean, you need to have that kind of mentality, but you don't need to like overtly do that to the right woman. The right woman is going to understand that there are other women that are attracted to you because what she's thinking about is, and when she looks at other women talking to you, she's noticing how many other women that you can turn on just by talking to her, because women are very emotional, and if you just like are being who you are, you're going to naturally arouse women. Like that's just a no-brainer. But you have to actually be who you are. And that sounds super like cliche and simple, but it's more about just operating from your own mental point of origin, right? This is what it's all about. Okay, so the only time that you're going to have to demonstrate that you can have options if the woman is playing mind games. And so this goes back to the main point of the topic. Women are going to make it easy for you if they actually want you. They really will. They really do. I have not had an experience where a woman that has genuinely wanted me has made it difficult for me. And the only reason that if she did make it difficult is because she was having certain things on her end that were like blocking the ability to connect. And this is actually okay if she's vetting you. If she's doing like a shit test or something, that's okay. That's good. In fact, I don't even want to have a relationship with a woman that doesn't know how to properly shit test me and make sure that I'm for real. Because, and once I pass the shit test, then it's going to be like a breeze. And and all you need to do to pass the shit test, it depends on the kind of shit test it is, but it's just like ignore it, agree and amplify, or just like downplay it, like just like make fun of it. You don't, and make a joke out of it. You don't really need to do anything else. Like the only way that you're going to fail a shit test as a man is if you yourself are insecure. If you yourself are insecure, and that's the whole reason why she's testing you. And women are going to do this. Like even in professional like life, even in professional careers, I have women shit testing, and it's not like romantically in the sense. It's a professional shit test. That's what I guess you could call it that. A professional quote unquote shit test. It's not a professional shit test. It's a quote unquote professional shit test. And women do this in like, this is one of the reasons I don't necessarily enjoy working with women all the time, because they'll do these stupid things sometimes, but for the most part, like they're okay, like in the professional setting. But as soon as it comes to like romance and everything like that, that's when, that's when things can get a little like hit and miss. But you also, as developing this kind of mindset. Now, what do I mean when I say this? Number one, meditate. Make sure that you are grounded in who you are. This is going to astronomically help you in solidifying yourself as a human being. It's more about how, like, think about hundreds of thousands of years of evolution, right? We didn't have like Lamborghinis. We didn't have like yachts. We didn't have helicopters to symbolize any kind of social status. Think about how, biologically speaking and anthropologically speaking, were men capable of demonstrating their social status to the tribe? What was that like? Just think about this for yourself for a minute. Imagine being in a tribe. There's only like 100 to 200 people in your area or whatever. Who and how were you able to declare who was the top male? Well, it wasn't always based on physical strength, but it did play a factor, right? It was also based on a certain amount of intelligence, and it was also based off of how well you can organize. Because if you were a good organizer, that meant your tribe was able to survive. That meant that your people were able to thrive. So it was a combination of the two. And this is why even in chimpanzees, you see that there are some, I don't know exactly what you call them, like groups of chimpanzees. I don't know if it's a tribe, but we'll call it a tribe. A tribe of chimpanzees, oftentimes the quote unquote alpha of the whole group is the one that goes off alone and then comes back and just makes sure that everybody's okay. Like, talks to everybody, but he's not the biggest. He's not always the biggest of the group, but he communicates with each person in a certain kind of way. Well, chimpanzee in this case. The chimpanzee communicates with each member of the chimpanzee tribe a certain way. And that makes them feel probably appreciated to some degree. That makes them feel probably recognized and seen and heard in some way. So this is think about lions as well. Like lions, it's not always necessarily that the biggest is the one that's the best leader. The biggest may be the most fierce, and yeah, they may be able to protect the the pride of lions for sure. But it's not always the case that the biggest one is the most uh, has the most leadership qualities, you could say. But in lions specifically, it does tend to lean toward like the bigger the male, the more dominant in the pride. So it's all about mindset, though. That's what it's really about, is developing the mindset of of optionality, abundance, resources, and you do that by, well, number one, it actually helps if you do have the options. Like, I remember when I first started to just have the mindset of having options and abundance with women specifically, it was way easier to solidify that mindset when I actually had options. And now in my community, it's like I know that I can walk into a room and I can genuinely believe to myself that there is no woman in here that I cannot have if I really wanted her. There's no woman that I could not have. That's single. That's single, right? Like I'm not trying to commit uh, infidelity or anything like that, because there are women, and this is going to happen to you men. Like it's going to happen. It might already be happening for you that are watching this video. It might already be happening where there are women in relationships or already in marriages that are looking at you a little bit too long. And this is one of the reasons why I find women difficult to trust sometimes, is because it's like they are literally with their man in front of them, openly like checking me out and giving me the bedroom eyes and all this other stuff. And it's just like, oh my goodness. Like, if my woman did that in front of me or even just behind my back, I wouldn't that would not be accepted. That would not be accepted, because that tells me that I don't satisfy her. That tells me that like I wouldn't be able to like fulfill her needs or desires. Why? Because, well, likely she's probably not like she probably has already had a few, and when I say a few, a lot actually, sexual experiences. And this goes for both men and women. I don't think it's good for men or women to sleep around. Not at all. I don't think that is the case. And I think a lot of the people out here that say you need a certain amount of women to sleep with in order to understand them, it's like, I think that's BS, man. That is BS, because I've known men that had like 50 plus women in their quote unquote body count. I hate that term, by the way. I hate that term. But that's their body count, is like 50 plus women. And they just like, yeah, they're able to sleep with women, but they don't have a relationship with women that they could actually be fulfilled with. And this is one of the reasons why, like, I have now I've turned down more women in the last 6 to 12 months than ever even looked at me 10 for the last 10 years. Why? It's because now I did all of the work. I mean, there's still a lot for me to do, don't get me wrong, and like I'm not anywhere near where I want to be, but it's very clear that I have a specific mindset, mentality, and way of being about myself that is just so vastly different from so many men in my community, that it's like women can't help but notice me because I am who I am. And this is not about being seen by or validated by women. This is about becoming the best version of yourself. Women are going to be a natural byproduct of this. I don't want you guys to think that women is like like the goal here, because it's just not. But she also must see that you are not fazed by anything. And you may, like, yeah, everybody struggles, everybody has a hard time, but you don't need to talk about that kind of stuff with her. You don't. Like, you eventually down the line, like eventually, yeah, you might have to, you're going to have to talk about some things in order to like raise a family properly, or in order to like pay finances or to get a financial plan set up properly. You're going to have a real sit down discussion. And you need to make sure that she's not uncomfortable with those kinds of discussions. If she's tough, resilient, and she's capable of listening, dude, that's amazing. Like, that's amazing. And there are some men that I've talked to in my consultations that have a similar kind of woman to this. And I tell them, like, do not let like this go to your head, but also like don't screw this up. Like, the only way that this is going to end from everything that you've told me is by something going wrong in your frame. And they know this. Like, they've even told me this. Some of them have even told me this. But that's definitely the case. And you don't want to mess that kind of relationship up if you don't need to mess it up. Like, you don't need to. And it's going to be difficult for you to mess it up anyway. Like, this is something I want to reassure to all those men that do have like those kinds of relationships. It's like, if you're already in your frame, you're already building yourself and self-improving, which, by the way, you don't need to talk about all the time to women, like, as well. Most women don't give a they just don't. All they care about is, this is something I've learned. Like, I'm not necessarily a young pup, but I'm young. I'm young. I'm younger. I'm 27. And I'm not an old person, but I'm like old-ish in some ways. I'm very mature for my age. I know that. I'm very aware that I'm an old soul. I'm aware of that. And so I'm at an interesting point in my life right now to where not only do I have the youthful potentialness, but I also have certain accolades that have demonstrated for myself a certain level of competence. And so my trajectory and where I'm going in life within the next 10 to 15 years, I have a lot of growing to possibly do, and I'm just getting started. And this is hopefully where most of you men are at as well. And even if you are a bit older, like if you're in your 50s or 60s or something, obviously, yeah, you're in the latter half of your life for sure. And I'm near approaching the latter half of my life. So when you're in that age range, there's still ways to improve, of course. Like, there's always going to be improvement. It's going to be a lifestyle for me. Like, I met a guy the other day, and he was talking about like how he's done with the gym. Like, he's done. And he was like 50 or 60 years old. And he's like, I'm just kind of done. That part of my life is just over. And in my head, like, I understood it, but at the same time, I thought to myself, I'm going to work out until I can't work out anymore. Like, I'm going to reach my full potential. I don't care. Like, I just saw, there was also like this 91-year-old bodybuilder, and he participated, and he was the oldest bodybuilder ever, and he was 91. Didn't need a cane, didn't need anything. He walked pretty okay. Like, he was fairly toned. Like, for 91, this guy was fairly toned than some of the fucking 20-year-olds I see out here. So, like, we can do this. We can do it. And that's what it's really all about. And so, also demonstrating that you're not in a rush to have sex as a man with women is going to be very helpful. And this is going to make her want to feel like give it to you easier. And I've had women that wanted to, but I said no. Like, I did not want to do that. I wanted to wait until I know that we're capable of a long-term relationship. And some of them were even more turned on by it, but some of them were turned off, and they just left. And honestly, like, for me, that's just like cleaning the weeds. So, but basically you're demonstrating that you can get sex like you can get DoorDash, man. Like, you really could if you really wanted to. And that's the thing about being on semen retention and being celibate and actually trying to live a life that's worth living, that is meaningful, that is full of responsibility, that is full of authenticity, that is full of just life and virility. It's like, you really don't need this sex. Like, you really don't. You really do not need it. As a man, you do not. Like, you really don't. And even as a woman, you don't need sex. Like, you don't need to give sex in order to feel valued. Like, we don't need to take our clothes off in order to feel appreciative of each other's company. At the end of the day, I want to make sure that when I'm like 85 or 90 years old, I can talk to you about truthful things. I may not have to have like the most deep conversations or anything with a woman, because I don't need that. I have plenty of men for that, and I prefer to talk to men about philosophy. I prefer to talk to men about all of these different kinds of topics to one degree or another. I do prefer it. And the reason I do is because men don't need to take things so personally. They don't have to take things personally all the time. Women just seem, I'm not saying all women, I'm just saying that a lot of women take things personally, and it's because of their solipsism. And it is what it is. That's just kind of the way the world works here. But yeah, I mean, if she tests you at first, but like, then she makes it easy for you because she knows that you're that guy, that's a good sign. All you need to do is make sure that you're vetting her as well. Like, she's what you want. So with that being said, I hope this message was useful and insightful. And until next time, peace be with you.